This is Governor Bobber. I like good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Go. You're watching Dr. Politics.
They're Dr. Politics. He's the one to see. Breaking down the news with sharp analysis. From Congress halls to campaign trails, he tells the truth when all else fails. They're Dr. Politics, Dr. Politics, exposing the spin, the lies and tricks. Dr. Politics, Dr. Politics, he calls it straight, no politics as usual. Love from backroom deals to primetime fights. He sheds some light and sets things right. Debates, elections, policy. He cuts through all the DC sleaze. Oh, Dr. Politics, he's got the facts. Dr. Politics, no holding back. Dr. Politics, go away. Dr. Politics, he's got the facts. Dr. Politics, no holding back. Dr. Politics,
Hey everyone, it is August 8th, 2025. The humidity's creeping back, Don. I don't know if you noticed, it's creeping back.
Yeah, we've had a nice time. I'm glad that my brother-in-law was here when it was a lot cooler than it had been.
But he's from Utah, so he says, this is nothing.
Yeah, I mean, the heat wouldn't bother him. I mean, the humidity. I mean, he grew up here for the most part, but
Okay.
But you know, he's lived in Utah for such a long time. I mean, you get used to arid climate.
They're like triple-digit temperatures in parts of Utah this week.
Well, I mean, it definitely can get that way in St. George in the south, because that is a hot place.
Yeah. And but you know, when it's 103 or over 100 degrees, I don't care if it's a dry heat or humidity, it's still hot.
That's right.
Like it's the humidity kills, but it's been a busy week. Looks like there's sort of movement on peace talks between Russia and the United States. Next week, allegedly, we might have a summit somewhere, Switzerland, UAE, or Hungary.
I don't know. Do you trust Putin to come through? I mean,
no, I don't. That's why I said allegedly. You know, it's my thoughts are. This is like honestly, my thoughts are this, right? We've tried to be nice with the Russians. It's time to unleash the Ukrainians. I mean, it seems like every time they talk about a deal, we'll let the Russians keep what they've conquered so far. I mean, that's how World War II started, when we cut up Germany and then Germany took back Alsace and Lorena. They took back the Sudetenland. Are we setting the stage for a World War III or IV, depending on how you're counting, you know, if we do create like a divided Ukraine?
David, you were going to say something, I think, weren't you?
Well, I don't think Trump is going to agree to any sort of summit unless there isn't some sort of guarantee that something positive will come out of it. Otherwise, it's a risk, and he's going to look really foolish if he goes halfway around the world to meet with them. But I don't know. Maybe he gets there and Trump and Putin still reneges. It's a risk, but you try to have.
Remember, Reagan walked away from Reykjavik when Gorbachev said no deal.
Yeah. So we'll see, but I think the sanctions are probably squeezing Putin, especially the secondary sanctions, and Militarily, we're still helping Ukraine, so it's still not doing great on the battlefield neither.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Now, I mean, we're helping Ukraine in another kind of indirect way, right? We are selling, materiel to these other NATO countries, which are then being used in Ukraine. So we're not. It's an indirect way of doing it, and I guess this gets the administration from some of the critics that say, oh, we can't support Zelensky. He's corrupt as everybody else. But if you're selling, weaponry and whatnot to other countries, you're like, we have no control what they do with it.
That's true. That is very true. And I think, I'm not a warmonger, but I do think, the Russians, and tying to the same issue, like there was an article I read this week where the Europeans are washing the oil by buying it from the Indians who are buying it from the Russians, and it's being turned around and sold to the Europeans. But I'm fine with the sanctions he's willing to do to India 50%, because frankly, you got to choose a side, us or them. There's no more non-aligned nonsense BS crap, frankly. You want to be our friend or you want to be the Russians' friend. But last check, you need us more than we need you.
Yeah, I mean, according to what I read, I mean, India is buying like a third of the oil from Russia.
Then they're selling it back to the Europeans, which is funny.
And China's buying half of that. So,
yep.
These two countries are basically propping up Russia in the war machine at this point. I mean, I agree with you. I don't blame Trump for this 50% tariff at all, because it's like, you got to do something. I mean, Modi's there saying like, well, we have to take care of our own. Well, you like the fact that Russia is so desperate, they're selling you oil on the cheap. And if you had any morals at all, you've thrown those out the window.
Yes. And I'll tell you, the Europeans are just as bad, because they are turning around and buying the oil from the Indians. They're getting it cheap. They're selling it for below Pepco values. They're probably adding a few nickels to it to make a profit, but then they're turning around and selling it to the Europeans. And the Europeans are getting around those sanctions against Russia by buying Russian oil via India.
So can we call that like blackwashing or something?
Yeah, it's like money laundering, but it's with oil. It's oil washing.
Right. I mean, the oil is. Yeah. I'm just trying to think about what's the general color of oil.
It's kind of like there was an episode of Dallas where J.R. Ewing was selling oil to the Cubans, but he set up a dummy corporation in Panama. It was the Panamanians that were selling the oil to the Cubans. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
See, Dwight, it's like you're like about the only person I know that can bring up these television references. Like, I remember watching a lot of Dallas, but most of the time when I watch a television program, I'm done. It's like, I don't know about you, David, but it's like it's not. There are some memorable television shows and episodes, but a lot, if you watch enough of them, how you pick that out? It's like,
Don, I remember everything.
I know your mind is a little still trapped with all this stuff.
I remember every single phone number I've ever had. I remember every locker combination. Why do I still know?
That's a little nuts.
I mean, wait, why do I need to know 021323? That was my locker combination in 7th grade. Why do I need to know that still?
Well, you don't. But for me, I'll remember if it's a good line or a good joke. Certain things will stick with me.
And here's
if it's particularly funny or witty, I'll remember. But if not, I'll forget. So it'd have to really stand out.
And by the way, here's the dirty little secret on these shows. I actually just read the synopsis in TV Guide. I never really bothered, because investing 1 hour for a television program seemed a bit much. I can do 30 minutes. I loved watching Happy Days. One of my favorite episodes is where they had this mobster called the Candyman who tried to kill the Fonz because Fonz was going to testify against him or something like that. But great episode. I
I mean, we have graduated to this era of streaming where all the things that we had seen growing up, where you had 30-minute shows with X amount of commercials, like 7 minutes of commercials, 8 minute commercials. An hour would be basically double the number of commercials and whatnot. So you get about 45 minutes.
What is it, 20 minutes of commercials in an hour program or something like that?
It's usually with 7 to 8 minutes per 30 minutes. But now with streaming, programs will be 25 minutes. They'll be 35 minutes. They'll be 105 minutes. They don't feel constrained to do that. And depending upon what you're watching, you can now pay for the ad-free version, or you pay for the one with ads, and get it cheaper that way. So it's an interesting world we live in.
I've got Pluto, and it's free, and they have a Happy Days channel. They have I Love Lucy channel, where every 3 days she's in Europe again, because it's just 24/7 Lucy. You can go through what is it, 7 seasons. I Love Lucy was on the air. You can go through 7 seasons in about 4 days. They have the Happy Days channel. That they actually don't show Happy Days 24/7. They show Laverne and Shirley and Mork and Mindy on there. Like, I think it's like 4-hour blocks or 6-hour blocks or something like that. Or I think they're 8-hour blocks, actually.
Well, I like my MeTV, memorable entertainment television. So I see all the old shows.
But Retro TV is better than MeTV, by the way. Actually, Antenna, I should say, not Retro. It's Antenna. And the other one is, it's a competitor to Antenna TV and Rewind. Those are the two.
Well, I've discovered
Rewind has 80s and Antenna has 70s.
Well, I discovered Mannix on MeTV, and a new series I'm starting to get into, although it's decades old, Dragnet.
With Jack Webb?
Dragnet, no, the later version with the Harry Morgan version.
Harry Morgan, he was the guy that used to do the AMX commercials,
there was
right?
A 50s maybe, then a 60s. They're two different versions.
And an 80s version. Don't forget there's an 80s version.
Okay.
But
just the facts, ma'am.
You know what's interesting? I was watching a show, Dragnet, the other day, and in the background, and this is probably when he just started his acting career. In fact, I didn't even see a credit for him. Was O.J. Simpson. They had a show where they had a crowd of police trainees, and there was O.J. Simpson in the back.
Was he playing a criminal?
Yeah, it was a police trainee, and they had him in the shot, and it was O.J. Simpson. So maybe it was when he just started getting into acting.
Well, here's something for you. Frank Gifford played football. He was actually a guest star on a episode of Hazel. Because Frank Gifford came to, I guess, Philadelphia is where Hazel lived, to buy some investment properties.
Yeah.
And Hazel goes, we should take him to the local football team, see if we can inspire them.
Joe Namath was on a Brady Bunch episode.
Yes, I do remember that. Yes.
And Davy Jones, right? Davy Jones, the singer, the late singer.
The Monkees?
From the Monkees.
Yeah.
The Monkees?
Yeah, he was on one too.
The Monkees, yeah. Yeah,
So,
the Monkees. That was an interesting television because it was just built around their music, right?
I like that show too because it was funny, and it was just anarchy. There was no real storyline, right?
You're right. There's no storyline. They didn't have to know how to act because it's the music. I mean, it's a little bit like
actually they were not really a band until
you don't have to have a lot of strong acting or plots. Mm-hmm. You're trying to promote some music or something or other, so that you intersperse that, and you make icons out of all these people. The Monkees.
And look at Reuben Kincaid. He was he basically went from there to Alice.
well, think of Baywatch, the big series. We know why people are watching Baywatch.
Well, by the way, she had another series called Vips VIP. And you knew who was her mother on that show?
Mm.
The late Lonnie Anderson.
Oh, wow.
Pam Anderson's mom.
That's sad, yeah.
Yeah.
She was great in WKRP in Cincinnati.
She was,
Yeah.
And I tell you, some of the people you can tell people who've never watched the show, they go, oh, yeah, she was the ditzy secretary. No, she wasn't. her character was not a ditz. Her
Yeah.
boss, Gordon Jump, was the
Yeah.
ditz.
Yeah,
know,
she
but-
was the smart one. She was one of the smart. There were only a couple smart people working there. That would be
Yeah.
Travis, the GM, and Lonnie Anderson,
And the girl reporter, the
and
other girl
Bailey
that was.
Quarters. But I love Les Nessman. My father loved the show because my father worked in radio, and he said in every station he's ever been to, there are characters just like those characters. That it was perfect. It had to have been written. He said it had to have been written by someone who worked in radio. Said this was perfect.
And that was also Howard Hessman's big start, right?
That's right. Yeah, Dr. Johnny Fever and Venus Flytrap.
Venus
He-
Flytrap. There were some great characters on that show, right?
He was
That
Downtown Brown
a great
on
ensemble cast.
Simon and Simon.
Okay.
And he was.
But I love Les Nessman was one of the classic characters, really one of the great underrated characters in TV. And you remember how he wanted to have, well, first off, he always mispronounced names. That's the other thing about him. He's in the news business, but he would mispronounce, Chai Rodriguez, obviously Chi Rodriguez, and he would that was one of his things. And you remember he wrote his own intro, his own fanfare, and it was London, Tokyo, Moscow, Cincinnati. And they had the great fanfare to his news reports. So
Did you watch the reboot, the new WKRP in Cincinnati?
no.
It was like syndicate. It was straight to syndication, and I caught one or two episodes, and only people that came back were Gordon Jump, Les, and Herb, the sales guy.
Oh yes, I remember him. Yeah,
Like Howard Hessman made a couple of guest appearances on there,
yeah.
and but people said he left Head of the Class to go do the new WKRP in
I
Cincinnati.
didn't know that. I remember him on Head of the Class.
Mhm.
But WKRP, and don't worry, I won't sing it for you. I think they had the best intro of all the shows. I think WK had a great intro.
Well, and there's actually I was actually listening to XM radio, and I go in there. There's the theme song for, and it's actually it's actually a 3-minute long song.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah.
It's got it's three whole minutes, that song.
The one show I think was greatly overrated, at least I could never get into it, was MASH. I never got into MASH. It just went over my head.
I think we were too young when it was on in first run. If you watch it now, you'll like it. I think we were too young. It's kind of like I think when there's a lot of shows like that I didn't care for when I was a kid. Like I didn't care much for the Jeffersons.
No.
When it was in first run, but in syndication, I really liked the show. It had a good Republican message. All in the Family, it was okay, but you watch it in syndication, it's like hilarious now.
Well, the thing about my problem with All in the Family is it's such a caricature that, you got the meathead who's, as Dwight, as you pointed out, I mean, he's a lazy nothing. And yet,
Archie let him stay in the house.
Yeah.
Archie
But yet he's supposed to be so smart, meathead, so bright, so enlightened. And Gloria seems kind of like a brat to me. I don't know. I just think.
And by the way, the most underrated was Archie Bunker's Place. When because that was also the series that had the return of Sammy Davis Jr.
Well, Sammy was on the original one too.
Yes, he was. And what happened was they were watching TV, and Archie's niece Stephanie runs in and goes, "See, Don, we're making up for last week when we just did all news."
we reverted to form.
She's like, "Hurry up, turn on the TV. Archie, Uncle Archie's friend's on," and Sammy Davis is on, and everyone's like, "Oh, Archie, you don't know him."
Well, remember when the situation for Archie meeting Sammy Davis in the first show was that Archie was moonlighting driving a cab. Mm-hmm. Sammy Davis left his briefcase in the cab. Anyway, he came over to get it, and they got a camera because Archie wanted a picture. And Sammy said, "On 3, 1, 2, 3," and he turned and he kissed him, which shocked Archie. But think about how cool that would be if you had a picture of Sammy Davis kissing you. I mean, that's pretty cool.
In Archie Bunker's Place,
he was mortified.
Archie kissed Sammy Davis Jr.
Wow.
It was funny. It was like his niece was calls in. She goes, "I'm Archie's niece," and the guy on the show goes, "Well, we don't have too much time." Because then he goes, "Wait, you're Jewish? You're Archie Bunker's niece?" And Archie invited him down to the bar and so on. And you have this reporter who runs a story that says, "Well, he's only being nice to you because you're a famous rich black guy." And Sammy Davis chastises her, saying, "Look, I've known this man for a long. He is, he may not, say things properly, but his heart is solid gold. Something. And then she goes, "Well, I'm going to write it the way I want it," which is I thought was kind of funny because that's a dig on the liberal media. And speaking of the liberal media, Don, you see they've gone overtime in Israel bashing lately.
Yeah.
We're at 673 days. They're like, they're showing all those poor, starving children. And I believe it was the New York Times that got called out for using, they were like using Hamas propaganda of starving children that weren't there.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, look, they're starting to turn some of the sentiment in Israel towards this plight in Gaza. But, when you have Hamas basically, intercepting, this food, they're not getting the food to the people who need it, but they're using them they're using them as pawns to say Israel's starving us, and the media's giving you that point of view, and they're trying to shift that narrative. I mean, Israel needs to stay strong. I mean, I don't
finish the job.
I really don't. I mean, if they want to take over the Gaza Strip, I mean, that's fine. We can get to, maybe that Trump can build his mega Gaza thing or whatever.
His resort there. Yeah.
So, but it's just it just kind of really just really burns me.
Mar-a-Lago East.
Yeah, the more every time I see this kind of stuff, because Hamas needs to be wiped out, and the media and that keeps giving them this lifeline with these stories, and the truth really doesn't get through, which is
no, it does not. And I think there's been people posting on Facebook, stop blaming Israel, start blaming Hamas. I'm not Hamas is the problem here. It is not Israel. It is Hamas that started this war. Israel is just finishing that war. And frankly, it's about time.
Yeah, I mean, we're only about 2 months away from the second anniversary of this, and please, you have to be reminded here that Hamas started this thing. I mean, Hamas. I guess I give credit to Hamas, who's been able to muddle the message to where people don't remember or they don't realize that they struck first. It wasn't Israel. Israel was fine. I mean,
it'd be like if Japan basically complaining about America bombing Tokyo lead up to the Hiroshima bomb, and saying, why is America doing this to us? We've got poor starving children here. America needs to give us, or Germany, we got poor starving German children here. All the bombings of Dresden and Leipzig and Berlin, all these poor children are starving because the Allies are bombing us into the Stone Age. I mean, it's ridiculous. Just like Germany and Japan, we did help them after the war was over. We did rebuild both countries.
Yeah, we just
passed the anniversary for the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki this past week.
Yeah. So and then that's 80 years. I mean, that's amazing. It's been 80 years for that. I mean,
and there's no anti-American sentiments in Japan. And I don't think there was. I remember there was a interview of I believe it's Torisho Honda, and I want to say his first name was Eric, but it was not Eric. Tsuburaya. They were both collaborate. Tsuburaya, I think, was the music guy for all the Godzilla movies. He did the scores and all that. And all those movies were none of those had any anti-American sentiments there. I mean, when they had Raymond Burr starring Godzilla, King of the Monsters,
Canadian.
But by the way, if you ever watch Gojira, which is the Japanese version, it's in Japanese. I don't think I have not found an English language dub for it, but that is so much darker than Godzilla King of the Monsters. They actually show the carnage, caskets of dead Japanese and stuff like that. They show the funerals and whatnot. I'm like, this is like way too dark. Just give me my happy Godzilla, you know.
Yeah.
But
I mean, so tomorrow will be the 80th anniversary of Nagasaki. So that's where my mother lived. She was there, on the outskirts of Nagasaki, and she lived to the ripe old age of 97. So it didn't seem to affect her, but she had seen some horrific images of people, where their skin was being burned off and things like that. And this trip that my wife and I took to Korea and Japan, back in May, we did take a side trip to Nagasaki and visited the Atomic Bomb Museum. And it's kind of like going to the Holocaust Museum or something like that. It's a very somber kind of a thing, and it makes you think a lot about stuff. But my mother, when I was younger, I mean, she would always just tell me. She says it was, the bomb was the best thing that happened to Japan, because Japan during the war was suffering. It was costing them so much in lives and everything like that to fight, that the citizens, like her, they were scrounging around for food. It was really hard. Once America brought them to their knees and got them to surrender, that's when the rebuild happened. So and it's they're a flourishing country overall. And you said really no real anti-American sentiment there, which is interesting, because that is really in contrast to what we see in South Korea, where there are a lot more, I guess there's just a lot more young leftists overall, and they do stir the pot.
But here's the thing: they would all be North Korea if it weren't for America.
Yeah,
They'd all be like, Rocket Man would have the entire Korean peninsula.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, the old people, that's where you have that divide. The old Koreans are like, we know, we know what life was like before, and we would prefer to be South Korea than prefer to be under North Korean rule. But these young people have been, they've been so indoctrinated.
Hey, how many of those young people have been trying to skip over the DMZ into North Korea? How many of those? Like none. And how many North Koreans are killed trying to cross over to the DMZ into South?
Yeah. I don't know how much we spend, on troops, keeping our troops in South Korea. But I kind of feel it's like same with the Philippines. Philippines pretty much kicked us out, right, many years ago. Yeah. And there's a lot of sentiment, where they want, they'd like to do the same thing. I think in South Korea, it's like, those people, our soldiers there are not just a protecting force; they're also part of your economy,
and they're deterrents to North Korean aggression.
Absolutely.
I'm willing to bet if you ask the Filipinos of today, would you like us to reopen Subic Bay? They would say yes. You know why? Because you got China's encroachment into the South China Sea, those fake island buildings and claiming international waters as Chinese territorial waters. I mean, Ferdinand Marcos, it was Cory Aquino that kind of kicked us out, so to speak, I should say. Ferdinand Marcos, he was very pro-American, his wife loved her shoes, and in 1986, I think it was 86, 87, that around that time.
Yeah, I think 86, the revolution.
Where Cory Aquino, comes into power. What is the first thing she do? She kicks America out, and we kind of supported her too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
the Philippines, had suffered the same thing a lot of these other countries. Though it's just that the corruption was there, then real.
Yeah, and here's the thing with the Philippines, right? They were under the heel of the Japanese for the longest time.
Oh yeah.
And the Bataan Death March, I know some people say, "Oh, Ferdinand Marcos was not part of that Bataan death march. Some say he was, some say he wasn't. But who am I to disagree?
I don't know. My love for the Filipino people grew, particularly after Spencer married a Filipina girl. But I think it gave me when you start having another culture into your life, you learn, you start paying a little more attention to that, and it's like the realization of just how hard working most Filipinos are, and they come here to do a lot of jobs that Americans wouldn't do, and fill a lot of void there, and they're because they send a lot of their money back to the Philippines to support their families, and get by a little bit less. They're amazing people. Like, when we took a cruise, it's been 2015, I guess we took a cruise. Most of the cruise workers were Filipinos. That was their thing, and that was a very important source of income for them to be able to send back to support their families. And those are not great jobs. They will take jobs that no one else will do.
I mean, if you think about like Vietnamese immigrants who came to America, we saw a lot of them in the 70s and 80s, more so in the 80s. A lot of them worked really hard. They took jobs, that nobody would want to do. And then they did. I mean, they had no issues working at a grocery store, being a bagger. Where if you ask somebody, oh, I'm not going to be a bagger, that's beneath me. I think I can do better than that. I don't want to be a cashier, And they worked hard. They saved money, and a lot of Vietnamese went into the dry cleaning business, opened up, as did a lot of Koreans.
Right.
Are in the dry cleaning business, and they pretty much run the gambit. You go into a dry cleaner in Montgomery County, there's a good chance it's either going to be owned by a Filipino or not a Filipino, a Vietnamese person or a Korean person.
Right. I'm not sure how many dry cleaners. I mean, I guess dry cleaners are surviving, but our whole culture now. I mean, how many people actually will need to use a dry cleaner?
Well, I mean, you still have to take your suits in for dry cleaning. I take my jackets and suits in every month, It's
you're better than I am. I haven't had a suit dry cleaned in years.
I had my shirt done today because I'm speaking on Sunday. So.
Were you speaking?
Well, just at church, actually.
Oh, okay. I thought you were at another book fair.
Yeah.
But you should try and do reading your book to the children in the children's sections of your. See if they'll let you do that.
I don't
try that out. See if Fairfax Public Libraries would let you do story time with the kids.
Well, homeschool parents might be fine with it, but the public school parents.
All right, so let's use that as a segue into Dave's book titled, Elections Have Consequences, because David also wrote a Substack column here about this whole Texas redistricting, Illinois being a sanctuary, state, kind of a thing like that. This has been, in the news.
Yep.
A lot of things going on over there. Dave, I mean, why don't you start us off in terms of your opinion? I mean, I thought you did a pretty good job in your column there.
Well, thanks.
There's so much going on.
Yeah, well, the ironic thing is, in terms of redistricting Illinois, you got 17 congressional seats in Illinois. Only 3 are Republican. And so it's greatly gerrymandered. So it's just interesting to hear Pritzker come out and talk about cheating in Texas. They're cheating. It's like, do you think gerrymander is cheating? Also, the other hypocrisy of the democracies at risk, when the Texas Democrats are trying to break quorum, breaking quorum stops the legislature. I thought that was considered an insurrection. I thought it was undemocratic, but yet they get a pass on it. Also, Illinois, and I didn't put this in the column, but this is not the first time, when Scott Walker tried to make, I think it was over the issue of right to work, trying to make Wisconsin maybe a right to work state. The Democrats left Wisconsin, and guess where they went? To Illinois. And so Illinois is kind of the sanctuary city for lefty legislators, I guess.
I'm surprised Texas Democrats didn't run to Nevada like they did several years ago when Tom DeLay They went to
Okay.
Nevada, I think, or
Right.
yeah, because they
It's
had a
interesting,
Democrat.
it's interesting you mentioned Scott Walker, though, because I
Yeah.
noticed as I was kind of searching around this afternoon that Walker has at, at least online, the Post put up an op-ed piece by him talking about that very thing, about that, and then he admitted how he made a mistake at the beginning of that, because he didn't really get the story out as to why he was doing it, to explain, and then to kind of how he could then pin the blame, show how the Democrats were in the wrong by leaving the state. But I also think you made a good point overall too. It's just that, you know, I don't like what Texas is doing. I don't care if this is MAGA world that loves it or whatever. I
Yeah.
don't like. Look, I'm just an old fuddy duddy who says, look, you redistrict based on the census every 10 years.
Yeah.
Unless Congress was making this a different thing here going on there, just abide by that.
Mhm.
This whole thing by Texas is just another piece of chicanery, and it's none of us like gerrymandering, or at least I hope we don't like gerrymandering. I mean,
No.
we've complained about the gerrymandering that's gone on in Maryland for
And if this is going to happen in Texas, Wes Moore is going to figure out a way to take our lone congressman out.
well, I mean, and that's part of the thing is that what have we seen? We've seen other states, that are out there that are, saying, okay, well, California they basically want to put their independent commission on hold, and they want to redistrict.
Yeah.
Kathy Hochul wants to do something in New York. DeSantis talk about doing something in Florida, but there are no guarantees when you do this redistricting like this, when you're controlled, that it's going to work out the way you think it will.
Yeah, it's kind of a risk, because if you go from plus 15 Republican down to 10, or if you're more aggressive and go plus 10 down to 5, if there's a wave against you, you can get beaten pretty bad.
Yeah. So this is kind of what I kept wondering, and I was looking around. I kept wondering, it was like, we're now in an AI revolution. Can we not find a way to harness, AI to actually draw maps that aren't gerrymandered, or at least give us a proposal, and then you kind of tweak it a little bit. But
Mhm.
these maps where you've got a small strip that connects east to west or whatever. I mean, this is just baloney to me. It's like,
Yeah.
I've hated this for years. I hate it more now. Elections do have consequences, so in the sense that Texas is red. They control the legislature. They have a government mansion. If that's what they want to do, they can do this because they have the power. But I don't have to agree with it, and I don't have to agree with President Trump saying we're trying to turn this around and trying to do these things, because just like we just said, it could turn you could do this, and all of a sudden your safe seats go into play because you've taken away that extra cushion they had.
Well, and the other thing is,
And
it may help chin up the Democrat vote. I don't know.
Well, right. You're right. I mean, you get the Democrats they're struggling. I mean, their backs are against the wall, and you're giving them yet another excuse to go bash the Republicans and bash Donald Trump. Why do we keep doing this?
Yeah. And Don, here's the other thing. Like in the other thing, the same thing, and as I tell people, if Westmore tries to get too cutesy by trying to take out, because there's only a finite number of Democrats in Maryland, there's only a finite number of Republicans, right?
Yeah.
If they get too cute by making Andy's district more blue, they may end up making 6, 5, 2 more red and more playable for a Republican. And
Yeah, it's very.
I could draw a map that would be fair, and we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 solid Republican districts, one that I could toss up, and then we'd have 4 solid Democrat districts. And all I'm doing is I'm just taking the Montgomery County district, Baltimore City, and PG County, and kind of carving out districts that way, and giving, taking a slice of some of the red counties, and thereby you have your 3 safe Democrat seats, you have 3 safe Republican seats, and you have 1 toss-up seat, which would most likely be the Dutch Rupersberg or the old Helen Bentley district would be the toss-up district.
I mean, is there anything wrong with letting the chips fall where they may? If you actually just let a computer or whatever just give you
there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
and if it turns out to be that the way, in order to keep the districts compact, without having all these crazy things going on, you get what you get. Now you have to think about the Voting Rights Act, which say, look, really the best thing to do is just sweep across your state and say, here's the number of people you have per district, and this is it. This is the fairest map we can have, and it keeps it. It's like, that you'll know that the east, west, north, and south, or whatever, that's where you are, because I think all of us have probably lived in areas where our districts keep getting changed and carved up, and sometimes we're like, what district are we in this election? What has changed and said, in Davidson, Virginia, they're having elections, so there are going to be consequences to the elections in Virginia, because if the Democrats gain more control, if they win the governor's mansion, which they are probably likely to do, based on what I've seen, what's to stop them next year from working on a redrawn map for the future, right? I mean, so there's a lot of stuff at stake, because what they're unleashing in Texas now could just have ramifications all over the place. The other hypocrite besides Jay Pritzker, Pritzker drives me crazy, because he's kind of like, there's really nothing I could have done. I think he kind of said something to that effect. Well, baloney, you're the governor. You could have rejected the gerrymandered map and let you go back and fix it. But then you've got Eric Holder, who's running this, independent fair voting commission thing. It's like, which is a bunch of baloney for him, because all he's been doing since he formed his group is to try to get commissions set up so that they draw liberal left-wing districts, put the Democrats in power. He talks fairness, but he's not about fairness at all. He is all partisan thing. So,
but anyway. I think you put your finger on it, though. It's kind of hard to take out the partisanship in a way, because, well, you could appoint an independent commission, but then the politicians appoint them, and then even in the judges, well, the politician will appoint them. So it's just it's not easy. I mean, it can be done. I'm not trying to tell you it can't be done. It's just hard to take out the partisanship in it.
But I think I hate to say this. I think the party that runs the governorship should be allowed to draw the lines. Not good for us. I mean, honestly, I think the governor. I think Larry Hogan, tossing it to the courts and all that, fumbled. Larry should have just taken out his finger paint set and just drawn the districts. Frankly, take 6 out of Montgomery County, we would have had 2 Republican districts, and we would have had 6 Democrat districts.
Well, yeah, look, you can look at a state like Maryland or Texas or whatever, and you can say, look, how many congressional districts do we get? All right, we get 9 or 10 or whatever. Then you just start. You can, why not? You can go and, like you said, almost kind of take your fingerprint, and then you could draw these lines and say, okay, I want them somewhere along these lines. And then you could actually go to the map and say, this is how it kind of breaks down. Maybe we don't want to break up the county, per se, and you can make some of those finer tuned adjustments. But in general, that would keep the districts from having these stupid things where you have that one strip of land that connects one part to the other, which makes no sense to me whatsoever. And then and then also say, look, if you draw it that way, it is just based on where the population is, and this whole idea that we have to have these minority districts, because of the Voting Rights Act, they've got to have a voice in Congress. Well, if they happen to be in a district and that's how they want to vote.
By the way, how are we defining minorities now, Don? There was a time, Montgomery County is a minority majority district. Yeah. So how are minorities really minorities anymore when uh, they're the majority now in the county? Do we need to draw special districts for Republican voters, or for? I mean, do we need to have a guaranteed minority district? I say no, because I think we've reached an equilibrium. I mean, I just asked, by the way, AI Don to create 3 safe Democrat, 3 safe Republicans, and 2 toss-up districts in Maryland. Okay, it gave me as the 3 safe Democrats: Montgomery County, Prince George's County, and Baltimore City and inner suburbs, all of Baltimore City and the nearby Baltimore County precincts, right? In PG County and Montgomery County. Then our 3 safe Republicans, you got the Eastern Shore, Cecil, and Northeast Hartford County. Then you have those, that would be a safe. And then you got the Western Crescent, Garrett, Allegheny, Washington, and most of Carroll County, Northern Baltimore County. Or they could do rural Frederick County. And that would be a solid Republican. And our other Republican district, Hartford, North Baltimore, exurban, the remainder of Hartford plus Northern Baltimore County suburbs would be our plus 12 district. Thereby, that would give us our 3rd Republic. And then our toss-up district would be Frederick, Howard County, and part of Upper Montgomery County. That'd be a toss-up. Southern Maryland, Anne Arundel blend with Calvert and St. Mary's would be our other toss-up. It'd be roughly a 50-50 district, or it would tilt. It might tilt slightly Democrat, but we can win those kind of seats. Thereby, that's what AI is saying. That's how we. And here's the map of. I asked it to draw a map, and this is the map that comes up for. This is how it do the map. We got Republican here, and our other Republican district here. You got our blue districts here, and then we got our, well, this would be these 2 would be the toss-ups, I should say.
Yeah, and if you look, I mean, if I'm seeing it, I mean, it looks like you're keeping everything compact, right?
Yep.
You're not getting crazy quilt things. I mean,
yeah,
this is something that this is the way a map probably should look more like, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I do think while Dave was right away, I mean, I think Dwight, you brought up an interesting point though about what is a minority. I mean, because we keep getting this Voting Rights Act issue. The courts will go say, well, you've got to the legislature didn't draw these maps right. You didn't protect this, that. So originally, this whole idea was really to make sure to black voters had a voice. But this country is not just about the black minority. I mean, we've got a huge amount of Hispanics and other people from other countries. So does this mean that how do you account for them as well? Why don't they get a voice? I mean, are you going to start throwing have to throw all the blacks in with all the Hispanics and then all the Koreans and whatever? I don't know. I mean, that's where I think the Voting Rights Act is just outdated now for today's time. Let's just go ahead and draw the districts just like the AI did. And I have no idea how many.
I have more faith in AI than in Democrat legislators.
Oh yeah, and look, it's not going to be perfect, but I think it's something. I think it's something they ought to be working with to say, can we, this looks like a map where people can't accuse you of saying you're making this kooky, thing about connecting, 2 disparate areas together, linking them through because there's a state highway or whatever that goes through some road or whatever that links the 2 together. But at least that would be a starting point. And I would love to say AI do this and then get your independent commissions or get your state legislatures to say, justify doing something else. Tell me why this map in general doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason why that is not an acceptable alternative.
Right. But it also goes back to all that partisan politics, right?
Yeah. And Westmore cannot tolerate having that many Republican districts, frankly. I mean, it didn't do the numbering right, but yeah, you've got 1, you got 2, 3, and you'd have a 4th district, 6th, 7th, and 8. And of those, 7 and 8 would be the toss-up districts. So you got, there's no reason why you could not have done that. But no, these guys, they got to take out their finger paint sets and they got to carve out. I mean, they put University of Maryland as Steny Hoyer's district in 2010 because, well, because he goes, I went to the University of Maryland. I want that in my district. So they did a little cutout for him, even though that should have been back then, should have been in the 4th.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever see in our lifetime something that actually where we get really fair maps. We have to kind of tone down the partisan politics. But the Democrats are such hypocrites. I mean, we have this hue and cry about what Texas is doing. David, we talked earlier about just Pritzker and the Democrats and their hypocrisy on this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And and that's part of it. I mean, and I think this is also where the media, is culpable in this for the most part, because I have seen very little, except for say a Fox News or a Wall Street Journal, that point out the hypocrisy. I don't see anything from the major networks or other, liberal media talking about that. They just want to harp on the Texas Republicans and Greg Abbott and stuff like that. And I was like, no, there's more to this story than you're reporting. Even though I am not in agreement on what Texas is doing, there's still a dereliction to duty. When you're basically saying you're siding with the Democrats and just omitting the fact that Democrats have gerrymandered every bit as much as Republicans do when they control the state house.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, and it's and that was my point, that Democrats really aren't on solid ground in this case.
Right, exactly.
And no matter where Pritzker stands, the ground may not be too solid. He's a big guy.
Yeah, your reference to the fat.
I'm sorry. Reminded me of Cannon. You remember Cannon in the show?
I do remember Cannon, and he was also the Fat Man in Jake and the Fat Man. You think they could do a show and call it Jake and the Fat Man, or would they have to call it?
Probably not. And the interesting thing about Cannon is that he didn't mind. They had some digs at him where they made references sometimes in the show to his weight. Oh, you're throwing your weight around, huh? So they would take little digs at him.
They had an episode of The Fall Guy where Cannon, Baricelli, and Mannix got together. They were like they were doing some movie together, and Lee Majors was a stuntman. And then there's like some crime that happens. They're trying to chase somebody, and Baricelli's like, "Well, Mannix, you were always the better driver. Why don't you drive?" And he goes, "Well, I had a stunt driver that did."
Yeah.
But I didn't even know.
You remember the thing about that, and I'll be brief, but the car in the first first year, maybe a couple, he had that Dodge Dart, with the British Racing Green convertible, beautiful car.
Who is this? Cannon or?
No, Mannix. He had that Dodge, Dodge Dart. Well, that was missing for years, and someone found it like in an old lot, and they restored it. And
he also had a Javelin. He drove the AMC Javelin for the rest of the series.
Okay, yeah. I sometimes watch those old shows for the cars. You see those old cars.
Yeah, I tell you, I was watching. Fall Guy was on Heroes and Icon TV, and it's funny seeing all those cars. Those old 80s and 70s cars on the road. And here's something funny. When we were growing up in the 80s, we saw cars going all the way back to the 60s, and every now and then we'd see a 40s car. Here's some cars I have not even seen on the roads, and I have not seen a 1980s Mustang on the road. Mm-hmm. I have not seen a 1980s Corvette, Camaro. I haven't seen a Buick from the 80s on the road, like a Buick Century. They sold a lot of Buick Centuries. I have not seen it. I don't even see Ford Tauruses on the road anymore. And they sold tons of Ford Tauruses. I don't even see a 1980s Ford Explorer, not 80s, early 90s Ford Explorers.
You know,
You know,
one thing I'm teased about is I like the old, and they still made them into the 2000s, maybe 8 or 9. The Mercury, the Grand Marquis,
yeah,
and I love that car. And I see them around occasionally. I'll snap pictures of them because I kind of like.
yeah.
Now I don't, I can't get one, but I think they're cool looking cars because it still has
Those
that old
are
American look.
those cars run forever. A lot of the YouTubers,
Okay.
I mean, you can actually still get those for about a couple $1,000 if you really want a Crown Vic or a Grand Marquis or even
I
a
like.
Lincoln Town.
I think a great car.
They were built on Ford F-150 platforms. I mean, they were trucks basically.
Okay. All right.
It's kind of like the presidential limousine. It's not on a car chassis. It's actually on a Chevy Suburban chassis.
Wow.
You
Wow.
know, because it's a heavy car. You know, it would destroy the train. You know, it was the presidential limousines is a heavy car.
Who made them? Was it GM?
General Motors, Cadillac, yeah, and I
Oh.
think they were also Lincolns for a while because I mean, President Kennedy had a convertible Lincoln with the suicide doors, and
Oh wow.
that also ended the era of presidential convertibles. I mean,
Yeah, that's right.
FDR had a convertible. It was a Ford also that he rode around in. But yeah, that did the end that the whole assassination thing. But you'd think somebody would have thought of it before the Kennedys. You know, maybe it's not such a good idea. We let the president ride around in a convertible.
Yeah.
You know, you'd think they'd say that. You know, they would have thought of that before.
The world was a relatively safe place at
That
that time.
is true.
Things have changed dramatically now, obviously, but anyway, all right. Look at the
Yeah.
time.
I
In
know.
our lifetime, certainly 9/11 changed things in terms of government
Oh,
buildings.
yeah, absolutely.
And
I remember
yeah,
when I could go into the Richmond General Assembly building in Richmond when I was an intern then. I didn't. There weren't any metal detectors. You just go right in the
really,
building and you'd go past. They had a state police officer there. You just walk past and.
I think Maryland actually did have metal detectors in the 80s,
Oh really? Okay.
in the 90s too.
Mm.
But they weren't nearly as sensitive as they are today. Like,
Yeah.
and I think it's the same thing with. I really think I think if somebody's willing to walk through, and this is my last bit before we get to final thoughts, is uh, airport security, right? TSA. Like, if let's say your mom was flying somewhere, Don, wouldn't you like to go through TSA and walk her to the gate, make sure she gets on the plane, post handing her off to some stewardess or some person from airport, the airlines? I think if you're willing to go through security, you know, it's you should be allowed to go. I think you should be allowed to go to the gate, and I think we may actually see that under Kristi Noem because she's already relaxed the liquid restrictions, I think, and
Right.
no more shoes off, shoes on, shoes off. You know,
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, because that was we were used to being able to go see our loved ones off, you
Mhm.
know, and then
or
now
see
we
them get
can't.
off the plane. You know, as
Right, right, and then we can't do that. But I mean, there are a lot of people flying. I'm not sure that I want more people into the gate area per se, but if you have them, if they're vetted, I mean,
Mhm.
because they've got a TSA pre-check number or something like
Mhm.
that, and they register in advance to go through and have a special maybe there is a way to accommodate them in some way. I don't know. Not at the top of my agenda though, is for that.
No, but I think it'd be nice. You know, I know. But anyways, so we're at final thoughts. It's 2 to 8 o'clock. Go, Dave. Final thoughts.
Well, check out my Substack, and I've got my podcast up there as well, and so it's going well, and I should have more stories the next couple days. So it's going fun, and I already know I'm getting pretty good reach because I already have a liberal trolling me, so that's positive.
Yeah.
It shows I'm moving beyond just the base. So
Well,
check
we
it out.
got this past week, we got $150 on our Substack from 3 different people.
Wow, good. Yeah, become a paid subscriber. I have paid subscribers as well, so it's always appreciated. But otherwise, doing good, and I'm looking forward to cooler weather. Actually, we've had a nice, cool August so far. So,
It's going to be heating up next week, Dave. Don't get used to this. It's going. We're going to be back in the hundreds next week.
all right. Well, check me out on
won't get
Substack,
that
but
high.
otherwise, that's it for now.
Cool. Don, final thoughts?
Final thoughts. It's a couple things, I guess. One is the Trump fired the Bureau of Labor Statistics commissioner, and when I saw this, I'm thinking like, why are you doing this? Is like, the jobs numbers were not great. The revisions, but there's just a process to this whole thing. I mean, the commissioner gathers the information, but actually doesn't really see the information until just beforehand. They're not. I don't believe that there's anything really nefarious going on here, but Trump has this way of just upsetting all convention and all norms. I don't know what this means going forward for government statistics. I mean, there already were budget cuts throughout the federal government, including, in the Labor Department part where BLS is, but and it could wind up just muddling the numbers even more, which could have another disquieting effect. But I don't know. I mean, I support President Trump in general, but I think he does some crazy, stupid things, and I'm thinking this is a crazy, stupid thing. I don't see any reason whatsoever to fire this woman, at all. This is not political. He's making the BLS and these statistics political. The fact of the matter is just that, the tariffs are starting to bite a little bit into the economy. Some things are slowing down, manufacturing slowing down, jobs are shaky. So these stats are not going to be, they're not outrageously off the mark. And there's a constant revision. If you read about how the numbers are gathered, one of the problems for the BLS is that, in order to meet their first deadline, their participation rate, in terms of the number of surveys they get back is around maybe 60%, and that's why they do these revisions, because the businesses continue to send them in, and so they will continue to revise them once they get more businesses reporting in to give the bigger picture of what's going on. And that's why you wind up seeing these numbers go back and forth, is because they're gathering more information as time goes on. I used to, on stuff like that, I used to remember filling out a piece of paper every single month and faxing it in to the BLS at AIM. I did that for I don't know how many years. And I mean, AIM was small. I mean, we're talking about, I don't know, we ever employed more than 15 people at the most.
No, I think when I was there, it was maybe close to 20.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you had, let me see.
I have to go through my head and think around, go through the office.
Keith, Kevin, Matt,
Charles Moranza,
Randy,
Okay.
Patty Lasky, Sandy Schuhart, Joan
Matt
Yo.
worked for a time.
I counted Matt. Peter LaBarbera, Brandon, Richard Hill. 12. Okay, yeah, you're right. 12.
Yeah. I mean, I think somewhere in that range.
And then with the interns, we get to like around 15, 16 with the interns.
Yeah, depending upon how many interns we had and everything like that. So anyway, I did think it was funny that Trump was on the roof of the White House, getting questions and shouting answers back. I'm not quite sure about exactly where this ballroom he wants is going to be.
Is they supposed to pave? Aren't they paving over the Rose Garden?
And they already put they already did some paving in the Rose Garden, and I have mixed feelings about that. But I understand. I mean, anybody who's been on the White House lawn is like, yeah, look, if it rained recently and then you have an event, the ground is mushy, all right, and you're going to have all these reporters and these people out there. It actually isn't a bad idea to have something that's a little more solid footing.
What's funny is that we could just annex more land from Lafayette Park, if we need. Do some additions.
There's an idea. Okay, there's an idea. Yeah,
we could do an addition, to the White House,
there's another annex, and you go across the street and take over Lafayette Park. Do we really care about that park that much?
No.
So anyway, and then my a couple other quick things. So Disney settled their suit with Gina Carano about on this whole Mandalorian thing, and I bring that up partly because Elon Musk helped fund it, but our own very own Gene Cher, Martha's husband, was also an attorney on that case.
Mhm.
So they settled. This wasn't like an outright victory in court per se, where the judge ruled in favor of her, but Disney, I think, it was a nuisance. They saw how much money they were spending, and it wasn't going well for them. I think in the end, I think the evidence was, showing that, yeah, no, this is not good for us. Let's go ahead and settle this case, and so that all parties can walk away happy or satisfied to some extent. So good for Gina Carano, and another victory against woke Disney. I'll take that any day. And then finally, I just want to mention that I had the opportunity to attend my cousin's retirement from the Air Force yesterday at the Pentagon.
How was the commute there?
The commute was fine, because we decided early on that we're not driving. We took the metro, and so that's just take the metro from Shady Grove, Gallery Place, switch, and then go right to the Pentagon, pop up, and then go through the visitors entrance, and that's all. But it was.
By the way, how do you like the credit cards? You can just tap your credit card to go.
Well, I didn't do that because I'm an old fogey now. So I had gone to the library 2 weeks ago with my wife, and we got the senior Smart Trip card, which gives us fares for half price. So I rode to the Pentagon and back for the price of one trip, in one direction. So I'm a very happy camper in that respect.
Hey, by the way, do you remember when library used to only just have books? Now you go into a library like I went into Wheaton Library during early voting ones. They got basketball courts, they got running tracks, they got a gym.
Whoa!
It's not
I haven't seen that in a library.
Yeah, they've got the Wheaton Library has that. They also have one of the libraries has a pool, and with a library card, you can go to all the pools, and all the county pools are free with your library card too. By the way,
that's really news to me. But I just want to give a shout out to my cousin, now retired Brigadier General John Andrus. So he was a 2-star. And he finished his career as the chief medical advisor to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So I don't know that he could have done much more in his career. He did a heck of a lot. I mean, reading his bio at the retirement ceremony, it's like, okay, I've known this guy for virtually his entire military career, and I had no idea he had done all the things that were listed there. And he had the vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff there as the presenter for the retirement ceremony. So it's like he had some pretty heavy hitters in there. And this room we were in is called the Hall of Heroes, and it's fascinating. I didn't know it existed, but you sit in this room, and all around the room are just these big kind of plaques or whatever, and they list all the heroes, the dead from all these wars. I mean, conflicts that I don't even remember if I was ever taught about them in my youth. They just go all the way around the room, and I thought it was pretty fascinating to see that. I know Spencer would have lapped that up easily, but it was quite a nice event. And kind of a rare opportunity to get to the Pentagon. Pentagon's got some interesting security in there too, because you go to the visitors entrance, you type in your social security number on a pin pad, they make you take a picture, then they assign it to your visitor card, and then you go and we have these escorts. But before we can go with the escort to go past the gauntlet, you have to take this visitor card, which you've just received, and you've got to tap it, so that it verifies that you are who you are, because it shows you a little picture and everything like this.
Mhm.
And then you get to tap it again to get through another gate, and then you've got to you when you leave, you got to turn it back in. So you know, they say you cannot leave until you turn in your visitor pass.
Yeah,
And of
NASA's like that too.
course, what happened is my brother-in-law lost his. So they told me to go through, and basically I had to leave the building, and I'm hanging around the metro, just kind of waiting for him. And I said, "Did you finally find?" He says, "No, but they finally let him go."
Yeah, it's at NASA when they give you, like, I've brought visitors onto Goddard, and they tell the visitors there's a little box you got to drop it off in. It's not like you got to hand it to them, but they do want it back. And I remember I asked somebody, I go, "What happens if somebody forgets to do that?" And
Yeah,
it's nothing
so
really.
I mean, they have a visitor
Yeah.
gate exit, right? With
Yep.
two little, with the two little feet.
Well, you
thing.
know what it is. I mean,
And you
NIH
put the
has that.
stand there. They open
Yeah.
the gate for you and walk out. But there's 4 slots, and you're supposed to put the visitor card in the proper color coded slot. You
Well,
can't just give it to them.
Well, I was told at NASA, because they use these little plastic clips, and they want it back because they could reuse those plastic clips.
Well, I don't know. I really don't know what my brother-in-law did with it, because that's what happened. The pass is a hard card, right? Like a credit card, comes with a clip. So I don't know what he did with it, except for the fact that at the beginning of the retirement ceremony, they told us to take off our passes. So somewhere that may have been the start of how
he probably
that
dropped
got
it.
lost.
He probably dropped it somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and since it just has a V on it, unless you have the scanner, you have no idea who it belongs to.
They really should let you keep those as souvenirs. When you go into, I mean, if you said it's like, if it was a paper thing, I'd say throw it away. But if it was like a plastic thing, that's like something cool to keep.
Yeah. Well, we spend enough money, our taxpayer dollars. Why can't we keep a visitor pass that basically is invalid and expires as soon, that day, right?
Yeah. Did it have a PIV chip in it also, or no?
I don't know. I mean, I just remember it just, it was like a green card, had a V on it, and somehow, the picture was assigned there. I think it was embedded into the technology, and then I guess they take that and then they wipe it clean, and
so it's like the USDA cards. Okay.
So they can just continue to reuse it and everything like that. All right. Anyway, we're into overtime now. So anyway, now it's good. Throw it back to you.
Real quick, rest in peace, James Lovell. He was Tom Hanks played him in Apollo 13, the hero of the mission. And it's a sad day at NASA. We lost a great guy. But and my other final thoughts is one very important, save the date, September 4th. Ellen Sauber is speaking at the Montgomery County Republican Club, and only September 4th. Save that date. And the Maryland GOP's Red, White, and Blue dinner is with EPA Secretary Lee Zeldin. Hope you all can attend. And that's pretty much it. It is on September 17th. Tickets right now, early bird is $180, and VIP is, I think, $225 or something like that. All the information is on mdgop.org. Check it out. And that's all I've got, actually. I don't have any rants or anything like that this week. Oh, except slow drivers in the left lane. Oh, my. Slow drivers in the left lane. It's like, you're killing me, Like, why are you driving 45 miles an hour in the left lane? Why? Anyways, but that's all. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Take care. But oh, we got a comment. Oh, we got a bunch of comments. Hey, Susan, I'm running your comments through real fast.
In reverse order.
Yes.
All right.
Here we'll do it in the right order.
Yeah, that's a good point by Craig too.
Yeah.
Yeah, for Susan, I mean, you can always watch it. I mean, YouTube will the rerun. I mean, it'll actually have the whole closed captioning thing on there.
Yeah, I know. That's pretty impressive technology.
Yeah, that is.
Yep. Oh, cool.
All righty.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Italian cuisine shines. Let's go down to Rossoni's. We'll have a